After 4 weeks between games, the Indiana Fever got back to it on Friday night right here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They did against a really good foe in the Phoenix Mercury. But the Mercury, they've had 3 players overseas in Paris playing in the Olympic Games. The Fever, well, they were the team set to benefit the most from this mid-season break that happens every 4 years. They had all but Christy Wallace with them throughout the last month, and she's seen her role diminish from starter all the way now to being out of the rotation. Did not play in this one, but congrats to her coming away and coming back home with a bronze medal playing on Australian basketball. But what has it been like for the Fever for the last 4 weeks? It's a lot of rest, but a lot of intensity. They brought in officials for many different of their practices as they got work in over the last 3 weeks here at the Fieldhouse. After all of them enjoyed a nice about 10-day break, including several of them, including Caitlin Clark, going down to Mexico for a well-deserved break. But as I tweeted during the game, the WNBA has to look out, though, because tonight we finally saw what a rested Caitlin Clark looks like with this team, and they finally had some team chemistry that you would more expect after not really being able to get that opportunity during their regular training camp due to that condensed schedule and the WNBA scheduling them for 11 games in 20 days to start the season. Now, before the game, Clark talked about how she was itching to get back out there. Both she and the team demonstrated that right away, as we saw the Mercury coming off a 20-point win last night against Chicago. But yeah, the Fever don't want to hear about any poor scheduling. Nobody has had it worse than them throughout this season.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I think we came out with a lot of energy. It's just, continuing to find a way to sustain that, but at the same time, they're a really good team. They're not going to go away. It's just finding ways to, limit that. I think we let them go on a run, but then we respond and they go on another run, but we got to limit their runs. I think that's where we take our next step. And but I'm really proud of us. I thought, there would be times throughout the year where we kind of crumble when we gave up a huge lead. What was our biggest lead? 28. Yeah, and it got down to 1, I think. So, I think there's times where we would have crumbled, but we just kept battling and fighting, and I thought it was a really good win for us.
The Fever led 33-16 at the end of the first quarter, and Caitlin Clark was already in double figures. In all, she finished with 29 points, 5 rebounds, and 10 assists. So yes, that's another double-digit assist game for the Fever star. Many of those going to Kelsey Mitchell, who finished with 28 points. One of them was past the length of the floor. We had a great seat from our media seating, which is right up there, but that really allowed for us to see, much like the Skycam in NFL, and you could see that opening up, and Caitlin found Kelsey right away. And to make it even more interesting was who was sitting on the other side. Courtside, Pacers Olympic gold medalist and star Tyrese Halliburton, a brilliant passer himself, and the fact he was impressed by it, couldn't believe his eyes, covered his head, both hands on his head, kind of showed how much he was surprised and impressed by what he saw out there. Now, he said hello at halftime but declined to talk, but was smiling during much of the game. And how could you blame him, right? The fact that he's got a max contract that began July 1. He was all NBA type player. Went and won a gold medal with Team USA, and now was sitting courtside for an incredible game right here at the Fieldhouse. And back to those passing, though, between Clark and Mitchell. Mitchell talked about it post-game, how their growing chemistry is not only evident, but they feel it. 2 great basketball players, but it just takes time and reps and practice to get on the same page as they are now.
I just think, basketball is a language, and you got to get on the same page with your counterparts. And I think, me and C Square like to play a certain way, and that's fast and up tempo. And so I'm going to always align, based on how she's playing and how the game is going. And I'm just going to take it in stride because I enjoy it. So
the Fever had a comfortable lead at halftime because of that great start, but in the third quarter, things did not go their way. Several runs put on by the Mercury led to Indiana Fever head coach Christy Sides using multiple timeouts. And we also saw a little skirmish, not much at all, just a little 2 competitors going at it. That's the best way to put it, because that's the way Kelsey put it post-game. It was Kelsey Mitchell and Natasha Cloud of the Mercury. Had to be separated, but we went to the monitor for about 5 minutes, and ultimately it was a double technical as expected. But the Fever held their own, then going into the fourth quarter after being outscored 28-19 in that quarter. And the Mercury did get within one, but the Fever kept doing just enough to stay in front to get the victory. And that, again, showed growth from this team.
7 turnovers in the third quarters where we have to get better. And they did a great job of doing exactly that, holding on to the rope. You know, we keep talking about that. That is with a young team. You know, we got out to such a hot start. You know, you're not going to be able to sustain that. They have 3 Olympians on that team. You know, but you have to be able to manage when they go on their runs. You can't let them have as much freedom. And that's a huge win for us. I mean, that, you know, we just keep building on all these little things and keep talking about our habits that are going to help us be successful. But we just keep looking for the next game. Like, we're not looking ahead for anything. We're pushing for those playoffs, but just going game by game.
Yeah, get a little gritty and dirty, obviously. Sometimes, you know, having passion for the game, you know, some moments can just, you know, spike your team up to, you know, go and play well. And, you know, I had a moment myself with T. Cloud, and, you know, hats off to her for being a competitor, but I think it kind of helped us, you know, the grit in the game in those third quarters, and when teams make runs, it's how you win a game in the WNBA. You gotta be gritty. You gotta be able to get trenchy a little bit.
This win in this season series says a lot about this Fever team as they swept the Mercury, winning all 3 games this season. It's a season sweep for the first time against the Mercury since 2015 of any team the Fever played since 2020. And yes, it has been some dark times for this franchise over the last decade or so. Both Caitlin Clark, Christy Sides talked post-game about what that means for the team.
You know, it's just those small victories that, you know, we want to get the W in the win column, but those are things that, you know, hasn't been done in several years. That's a huge win for us. I mean, that, you know, we just keep building on all these little things and keep talking about our habits that are going to help us be successful.
Honestly, I think one of our biggest wins of the season so far was our first win at Phoenix. I think that really kind of boosted us into how we're playing basketball right now. That was like I think it was the first time we beat a team over 500, first of all. Felt like a very good team win. We were down in that game, we came back. So I think it's just like we have a lot of respect for them and how they play the game and how talented they are. And I think that gave us confidence, and you've seen us just get better and better from that point. And, you know, being able to beat this team 3 times, like, you know, that's awesome. It's really hard to beat a team once, let alone twice, but 3 times is really hard to do, especially in this league.
Lastly, I really want to end on a funny note. As you may have noticed, Caitlin's kind of got her swag back. She's a lot more comfortable, a lot more rested after having probably the most time off that she's had since maybe last September. But you can see it in practice. You can see it in the videos posted by the team, some of their inter-squad competitions that they had over the Olympic break. But we're also seeing it in our post-game interviews, whether it was pre-game or again here post-game. And a little bit of an awkward question as Caitlin was asked about her arms as she continues to try to gain strength post-game, and then this happened.
I noticed you've got some muscle growth in these recent games. How's it been to kind of adjust?
Studying my arms.
Yeah, you got some good arms.
Yeah, I do. Nice. I think at times, like, yeah, I'm small, but like, I mean, I try to hold my own the best I can, and it's actually funny. We were playing live the other day, and I was backing down E-Dub, and E-Dub's like, man, I thought I was just going to push you out of the way, but you're a little stronger than I thought. I was like, yeah, E-Dub, like, don't mess with me. Like.
By the way, credit to Mercury guard Kahleah Copper, an Olympic gold medalist, as she was really strong for the Mercury in this one. Had a 32-point night, going 18 of 19 at the free throw line. That was more free throws than the entire Indiana Fever roster. So it was a Fever victory, 98-89 in this one, their 12th win of the season. But a lot of things still they can learn from this, and we continue to see growth moments for this team that is focused on one game at a time and focused on getting back to the playoffs, and got to the first time since the Tamika Catchings era. And by the way, she was sitting courtside, so was Tyrese, so was Pacers player development coach Isaac Jakob. Connor McCaffrey was sitting courtside. And I want to also note that before the game, a special ceremony, moment of silence was held for Jim Morris, who passed away 1 month ago. And now forever, he will be remembered with a banner up in the rafters, becoming just the second addition that is a non-player, a non-coach, and non-Hall of Famer up there. The other being former co-owner Melvin Simon, Herb's brother. So Jim Morris up there as well. And you can read that full story at fieldhousefiles.com. The Fever will take Saturday off, back here Sunday afternoon against the Seattle Storm, and then, go figure, another break. They have 5 days between games before they head out on the road at Minnesota coming up the next weekend. But another good win for the Fever tonight to jumpstart this into the season after that mid-season break that was very much needed and well-deserved. Reporting from Gainbridge Fieldhouse, I'm Scott Agness of fieldhousefiles.com.